Okay, hello everyone. This is BJ Wilson, host of Dinner and Movie tonight. We have a much larger crowd. Starting on my left, we have Steve, Juan, Joe, and Aaron, and Jordan, and Eve. And we're going to be discussing Quentin Tarantino's new one, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. I hated this movie. Hated this movie so much. But enough about me. Let's go around the room or around the table and just give first impressions. I've given mine. Steve, would you like to start us out?
Tarantino's still brilliant in my book.
Juan, what do you have to say?
Honestly, I hate to have a cop-out thing, but like I was telling my friends the other day, I think I've seen Hateful Eight 20 times now. I still don't know how I feel about it, and I don't know how I feel about this yet. I don't hate it, but I definitely don't love it either, though. So,
okay. Joe, what do you think, Joe?
Perfectly middle of the road Tarantino.
Okay, so if this is middle of the road Tarantino, what is the top and what's the bottom?
Like at the top, it's like Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown. At the bottom, probably Inglourious Basterds, Kill Bill Volume 2.
Okay, interesting perspective. Aaron, what's your first impressions of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
As I said before, The Big Lebowski could have a diet version of it that was not as good. That's what this movie would be.
Jordan, what do you have to say?
Yeah, as far as like in the scheme of like Tarantino, I think it's probably my second to least favorite one.
Second to least favorite. Okay, what's your least favorite Tarantino?
Hateful Eight's my least favorite.
Okay.
But although I think like cinematically it was like really nice, like it had some really nice shots, some really good tracking shots like that. But like the story was just kind of really disconnected. I felt as far as like kind of like the three different narratives that I saw going on there. Okay. So definitely bottom of the barrel.
Right. And Eve, what do you think of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
As far as overall entertainment value, I will say that the first half of the movie I was completely bored and said I will never see this again. And by the time it ended, I couldn't wait to see it again. So really? I really liked the ending. I thought it dragged. I kept looking, there's been so much build-up to this movie and so much references to all the great directors that he is influenced by. I was just looking for those influences, and I saw them. Also saw a few errors right off the bat. And I won't go on, but I think that Jackie Brown is his best.
Okay.
And this might be his worst.
Okay, but you still want to see it again.
But I do want to see it again.
Okay.
Because it was a lot to absorb.
Yeah.
And there's always details that are enlightening that you miss in the first. I mean, I do. I can see it.
I can see this as like a good movie that has you need to watch it at least twice to pick up on stuff you didn't see the first time.
yeah.
The way that I perceived this movie was simply as a framework upon which Tarantino hung all the 60s/70s stuff that he values so strongly. The advertisements, the fashion, the cars, the music. It seemed like in every scene at least started with the shot of the Carnation ice cream stand, and then would zoom out or track over to something else. And it seemed to be very repetitive as far as that stuff was concerned, and didn't really add much to the story. It's like, okay, so there's a Carnation ice cream shop. How does that affect this relationship between Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt? I don't know that it really was. It was just kind of like, wall art or, something that, Tarantino just wanted to remind you of because of this heyday. Steve, you said something interesting. You said Tarantino is still brilliant. What was brilliant about this movie in your perspective?
I thought the writing was really good and clever, but I just think the filmmaking, I mean, I'm not a critic at all, and I'll go ahead and tell you that I haven't even seen all of his movies. I would put Pulp Fiction at the top. I had no expectations. I didn't read any reviews. I didn't do my homework. I manage expectations by not having any. I just sat down and watched what I thought was just visually, just filmatically, cinematically, I just loved it. I kind of lived it, I mean? I was 4 years old in 1969, and so there was a nostalgia for me, and not just a nostalgia for some area you didn't live through. So he's probably making movies for people like me, you know what I mean? What else did you ask me?
I don't remember.
Just bouncing off of that though, like when I saw it, I was saying that like it's interesting to me that Tarantino seems to be like the last few movies has been his nostalgia tour. It's almost like he's just like doing this like old man thing, like not even in a negative way saying that, but it's just like, let me revisit like everything that I love about the movies. I think it started with Kill Bill. That was an obvious homage to, exactly like, 60s, 70s Kung Fu samurai movies and Kurosawa, all that stuff. And then he moves into, spaghetti Western, Django Unchained. And then he does Western, like with Hateful Eight.
And then the World War II.
Right. And then, like, exactly. And then I'm like, so what is this? That's what I was asking.
Which he revisits within this movie.
Exactly. And I was like, so what? Exactly. So that's the conclusion I came to, too. I was like, so it's like his, fascination with that time that he didn't live in. Like, I was saying, like, the scene in the Playboy Mansion, we all talked about that when we got back from it. It's like, what the hell was that there for? Like,
it seems like an entire unnecessary scene.
Of this movie didn't need it.
The closest I came to interpreting the Playboy Mansion party scene was just to like draw a comparison between the life that Sharon Stone is living at the height of her stardom to
Sharon Tate.
Yeah, Sharon Tate. To Rick Dalton in like his waning stardom, like just kind of hanging out in his own like.
Yeah, that was kind of like a music video too, and he was saying, "Look at how much I'm nailing this period." There was definitely something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then that Cass Elliot, the woman who was I don't know if you guys even know.
Mama Cass.
I mean, that looked just like her. It was like, wow. And then it panned up, and it was there wasn't a point to that, but I don't think there was meant to be a point to it, really.
This video is going to be chock full of spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled, don't watch it. The story, as it were, is of a cowboy Western TV show star played by Leonardo DiCaprio and his relationship with his stunt double played by Brad Pitt. This relationship kind of meanders on separate paths or the same path for a while, and it leads up to the Brad Pitt character discovering the Manson family out at the Spawn Ranch north of Hollywood, and what's supposed to be the murder of Sharon Tate. But again, in the tradition of Inglourious Bastards, where the characters get their revenge on Hitler, in this case, we see the characters not necessarily save Sharon Tate, but the murderers go to their house instead of the Tate Polanski house, I should say, and are dispatched by Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt's dog.
More Brad Pitt's dog and Brad Pitt than Leo. Leo is just kind of chilling in the back.
I really want to adopt a dog now, I think.
You mean watching John Wick didn't make you want to adopt a dog?
And dispatch is a very nice word.
Right. That's a nice word for brutally murdered.
Yeah, for real.
Those scenes with that dog were absolutely like...
They were pretty brutal.
They were,
They were pretty brutal.
And it was very funny. I mean, and that's always been his thing, is violent and hilarious at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been his thing, where you're just like, how am I laughing at something this violent?
Yeah, except Django Unchained. Django Unchained, they certainly drew a line between the violence and the comedy. The two guys fighting on the floor, and the one guy who gets the dog sicked on him.
I don't know. I think the last part of Django where he's asking him if he ever got kneecapped, and you have just Samuel Jackson on the ground just yelling at him like, "You, this is you mother."
It seemed to me like the I'll call it the Sharon Tate sequence, even though it's not what it was, but the scene at the very end seemed to be very rushed. It's like the percentage of the movie that sequence takes up is very small compared to the rest of the movie. Did these storylines really match up as well as they could have or should have, or should these have been two different movies altogether?
Well, like I was saying in kind of the intro, I thought there was like 3 different narratives going on that didn't seem really well connected. So yeah, I mean, like it probably could have worked almost better. It was like almost like kind of like a Grindhouse type film where you have like the one shot and like the one storyline, and then like next movie other storyline.
Yeah. And they all come together at the end.
Right.
I get the feeling that Tarantino wanted to include that end scene just because that is the scene, like that is the event that kind of defined like the end of the hippie era and like the end of the 60s to the start of the 70s. It's like whenever you think about that time period, you think of like the Manson family murders.
As far as like that end sequence goes, like for me, like you're right. Like they even bothered to put like timestamps like on like every little part. It was like, okay, here's a day, and it was like this is 10 o'clock, this is this is that. And then you're like, all of a sudden, you're like, why though? Because like, if you're gonna do whatever the hell you want, why did you bother to try to like?
The sun has already set.
Yeah, like exactly. Like I didn't understand that.
It's not like the Manson family people and Sharon Tate or even Brad Pitt and Leo were on some sort of collision course that you needed to sync up the times or anything like that. It just seems kind of artless to me. In the language of film, you're supposed to show, not tell. So, were those date subtitles really necessary? Or could we have just shown Sharon Tate very, very pregnant and made the connection ourselves?
I think it just like added like more like a sense of urgency. Like you know something, even if you don't know that was the date that the Sharon Tate murders happened. Like if you didn't know that, it would still create the sense, ideally, that like there's a big event that's gonna happen.
Because you're going by time. Like at 10
Mm-hmm.
o'clock, at 10:30, they're doing this. As soon as you hear that, sounds like very much like almost the rhythm and cadence you heard in so many
it's like
like crime retelling dramas. Always like she walked in at 10:30. It's like, okay, wait, what the heck's gonna happen?
Yeah, to make
what are
you
we
think-
counting down to?
To make you think it's going to be historically accurate, and then it ends up not being at all.
Or it's like a bomb countdown, like in 24 when like.
Well, oddly, when he's getting questioned by the police or the ambulance or whatever, the questioner repeats, what time was it? And he says, well, it was midnight. He's like, exactly midnight? He's like, well, no, maybe 5 minutes after. I don't know it. I thought, what is this about? You know, is this some inside joke from, the stage crew or something? I don't know. There was a lot of just superfluous. What seems superfluous and might come together on a third viewing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I remember that when I was being questioned by the police for murder. Oh, they're asking questions. Is it exactly midnight or is it 12:05?
No, okay.
Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do. Yeah.
But I don't know. Okay, so do we want to talk about like the end specifically? Like,
Yeah,
do you
sure.
want to go there?
Talk about whatever you want.
Okay, that was fucking awesome.
Man, Sexy Sadie did not end that night like
Oh
nearly
my
as
God.
well as she did in real life.
I just want to ask because we had a little debate yesterday. Who got it the worst? Which one of the hippies got it the worst?
Oh,
Sexy Sadie.
Sadie, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because I said it was like Face Smash Girl.
It's like
That's
that was
kind of up for debate.
Yeah,
If I did
Choose which way to die. Smashing.
I would die the way of Big Patty. I would not want to die the way of Sexy Sadie. Linda Kasabian was the one who really made it out because she fled the scene before it happened.
I love that whole thing. Just like,
smartest person in the movie.
yeah,
To
it's
be
like
fair,
you're gonna
I
need the key.
Forgot my knife. Oh yeah, thanks, man.
I think it helped to realize like Linda Kasabian had only been part of the Manson family for about a month before she was part of the Sharon Tate murder, whereas all the others had been part of like the Manson family, especially Sexy Sadie and Big Patty, since it formed like a 18 months prior.
Yeah.
Someone here might know better than I would. If you're high on acid, can you fight as well as Brad Pitt fought in that
I
sequence?
don't know. I think
Yes.
that's how the Manson family fought too, because
probably-
during the Tate murders, like 2 out of the 4 were just ripped on either LSD and or belladonna.
Okay.
It depends on the acid.
Okay.
Somebody threw. What was it? Who threw a no hitter on acid?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What? That's-
Carlton.
That's
Yeah.
not a thing.
Right?
Dude,
Oh, it is.
yes,
It is.
yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Video.
There's a 30 for 30
Some
on
guy-
this
yeah,
whole
guy in the
thing.
70s?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, some pitcher of some pro baseball team did a hit of acid and went out and threw a no-hitter.
We forgot that he had to like play that day or some shit. He's like, I was gonna have a good time.
I think he was on a bender, and he was just
Yeah.
like, "Fuck it," like.
Yeah,
and
when you asked that question about Brad Pitt, that was the first thing I thought of.
yeah, it's
Like,
like
what-
so,
There was a
like.
no-hitter with the pitcher on acid.
When I'm in the stadium,
pitched
I,
it.
I have
Everyone
no-
trying to replicate it. Immediately, there's a week of baseball that was absolutely just fantastic.
Getting back to the ending, I would say it was largely what I expected. Like, I expected something on the order of, like, Inglourious Bastards, where the historical events, they don't, like, the characters are there, but it definitely doesn't happen according to history.
Yeah. He's big
It was
on the
almost
whole
like a
Once
better
Upon a Time.
alternative ending that was
Right.
that honored the dead, the actual dead.
Well, it's like one of the taglines of Inglourious Basterds was "Once upon a time." In fact, that's the opening shot is the title screen. It says "Once upon a time in Nazi-occupied France." So, yeah, he's got this kick of alternative history.
That's interesting that you bring that up because that was actually I read just a few pieces on it, like the spoiler-free stuff, and apparently there's some people who are really kind of pissed off, and they're like, "Why would you treat people's murders like this way? You're making light of like the people actually
but those people
died
didn't die
and
in
like."
the movie. So he kind of made it a Hollywood ending.
I have no problem with any of that. Like, I don't think Jewish people had any problem with the Inglourious Bastards, like the way that ended either. But like, apparently, people are saying like, "Oh, that's so insensitive that like you would treat like the death of like real people. That's really happened to these people.
probably-
Like, it's not funny. It's not a joke." But I was just like,
You could,
I didn't get
you
the
could
outrage.
Make
Yeah.
historic documentaries if that's.
It probably
It's-
doesn't help that there are still, like, people, like, associated, like, with Sharon Tate, and also the Manson family members who carried out the murder still alive, including some of the murderers.
"Yeah,
Like, I know Big Patty's still alive out there
isn't
in California.
Squeaky still alive too?
Squeaky did not take part in any of the murders.
Didn't she try to kill?"
Gerald
She,
Ford.
yeah, but that was after, like,
Isn't Roman
everything started
Polanski
going
still
down.
alive?
Yeah, he's still very much alive and
Yeah, and can never come to this country
doing a
again.
lot of weird things.
That's a whole other movie.
Yeah, right.
If any of you guys want seconds, there's tons left. So please don't be shy.
Thank you. It was really good though.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay, speaking of weird people and doing creepy things. Okay, so Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and foot fetishes.
Oh God, yeah. See, that was another thing that Tarantino just wanted to hang on this framework of the movie. It's like, how many naked female feet can you cram into one movie?
Most ever. This is his record now.
There was like 25 minutes of movie that was
he's
literally
not
just
holding
feet.
back anymore. It's just gratuitous now. It's like
It felt like Tarantino thought that was the only way how he could show how filthy the Manson family were. Well, otherwise, keeping the actresses.
Margot
still
Robbie in the
boots and
movie
feet.
theater. Why'd she take her boots off and put her feet on there? It was just literally like we were joking the other night. Like it was just like, all right, everybody leave the editing room. It's like, I need to really focus in on this. It's like
I can't edit when someone else is in the room.
Like, dude, you've been going over this one cell for like 20
problematic.
minutes.
Hold on, I want to ask the sole woman on this
Okay.
entire.
I can't speak for all women, but I can speak for me. And the barefoot women does not bother me. The only time I really noticed it was in the theater when she had her feet up. I thought, no, wait, she walked in with, go-go boots. Why is she bare feet? Well, if she had bare feet and go-go boots, it was probably sweaty and she needed to take them off. And that's exactly what I would do if I were her. I don't know.
Really, you're like, all this is cool. You think this is totally normal?
Totally cool.
What about the scene with old girl leaning into the car with Brad Pitt? That was unintentional. That was just a shot.
Her feet?
No, the ass.
Oh.
Yeah, that one seemed to be there on for quite a while.
Long time.
That was like a full minute.
It didn't bother me. Didn't bother me, but I'm from another generation. I'm not that sensitive.
All right. I mean, I'm not sensitive either, but like, come on now. It's just like, let's call a spade, man. It's like, this man has drank tequila off his Salma Hayek's feet. It's just been, I mean, like, we can go on and on and on about like some of this stuff. And like, I feel like we have to mention this, a man who's been associated with Harvey Weinstein, like, for his entire career. It's a foot fetish. It's a foot fetish.
The thing that I wanted to.
So typically we've done this once. What we'd like to do is close the show by giving the film that we've seen a letter grade. Last week we saw Jim Jarmusch's The Dead Don't Die. Last month. Last time we saw The Dead Don't Die. We gave it like a B minus C plus. Also I have coffee brewing, decaf coffee brewing, if anyone wants decaf coffee. This film, I'm gonna be pretty harsh. I'm gonna give this one a D minus. I just really thought it was amateurishly made, sloppily written, and just not up to Tarantino's usual high standards. Steve, I'm sure that you're going to go the opposite direction that I went. What grade would you?
I mean,
what grade would you give this one?
Well, the more I think about it, I'd probably give it a lower grade, but I really enjoyed it in the moment. So I'd give it like a solid B or B plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Juan, what do you think?
Come back to me.
Okay. Joe, what do you think?
I'd say B minus B. Like, it's enjoyable, but again, the more you think about it, the less it kind of makes sense. And I don't know, like, I could see its rewatch value, like, lasting for like a film, like one more viewing, just to catch all of the background details. But after that, I think it'll fall off.
C?
Yep, C.
Solid C.
A solid, just it's middle of the road. Not that great for Tarantino, but yeah.
Okay. Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna give this one like a B minus C plus, kind of teetering on that. I think given like a second watch where you can kind of fill in a little bit more of the details, that grade could either go up or down, just depending on how you feel about it. Because like there are a lot of like glaring like kind of shit moments in it, and again, it's like just way too fat. So it's like there's again easily 30 minutes of that movie that does not need to be on screen.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that's where I'm at right now. But
Okay.
Eve, what do you think? What would you
I'd
give this
say
one?
you're right. D.
A D? Okay. All right. What improvements do you think he could have made to this one?
The story could have been tighter. I could have cared more about the characters in general. They were comedic. The acting was good, but I didn't really care. I can think of half a dozen movies right now that aren't great that are better than that.
Steve, you're the one, you're asking people about if they've seen The Big Lebowski, right?
Whether they liked it the first time.
Whether they liked it the first time. I did not like it the first time, and I understand why you're asking. I don't think that this movie has the same rewatchability potential because I don't think
anything does.
Really?
No.
See,
It's Big Lebowski.
I'm
It just gets better and better every time you watch it, I think.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that the dialogue was as good. I don't think the characters were as engaging as you were saying. We don't really know a whole lot about the backstory. Like, you know, in Big Lebowski, you got Walter, and you know so much about his backstory just from the little things he peppers his conversations with. You know, his conversion to Judaism, you know, his service in Vietnam, the fact that his failed marriage, the fact that he dabbled in pacifism, not Nam, of course. I don't think this one is going to stand the test of time like Lebowski did. And I understand why you're asking if you liked The Big Lebowski the first time. I've heard a lot of people don't, because they're watching for the plot, which is so convoluted and ultimately irrelevant. It's not the point of the movie. But I think when you're making a movie about the Sharon Tate murders, you'd better have a strong plot, and this one kind of meandered a bit. So that's why I think the difference is between Lebowski and this one.
So one thing I think that exists always with a story that makes it good is the agency of a hero in that story.
Oh, yeah.
And I think where The Big Lebowski is interesting is he has no agency, but by choice. I'm going to go with the flow, man. Like, he's willing to be bounced around to these areas. So you don't feel bad for him because he's not like this guy who's pathetic and he's just being told where to go. He just doesn't care. And so he just wanders where. And that's what makes him cool. That's what makes him the dude.
Right.
But in this story, it feels like they don't have agency, but it's because they're sad and pathetic and being bounced around.
Yeah.
The thing about Lebowski is that, yeah, he chooses to just go with the flow, but then he's got these moments of sheer panic. And they don't really change his underlying character at all. It's like, wait, you got a fucking gun around, but it doesn't ultimately affect who he is.
He's too cool, man.
He's too cool for that.
He's way too cool for that.
Yeah. So Juan, it's time, man. You got to give this film a grade.
It's such a fucking cop out to call it a C, but I really want to just like
Warren, are
either.
you agreeing with me?
I mean,
Someone
you
check
teach
outside.
Chicago
We need to make
public
sure that
school
Hal has-
kids, so you have to know how to grade. Look, no, like until I watch it, like at least again, like I said, I'm the person who I still don't know how I feel about Hateful Eight, so I'm gonna say a C, but I'll say that this definitely even is like it has to be at the bottom of my.
Okay, so you're at a.
It's below Hateful Eight even for
Okay.
me, right?
Fuck.
Fuck. All right.
You're
It's
at
like
a C right now.
I'm at a C right now. It could either go lower, honestly,
Yeah.
or it can end up at a B. It's not going to ever end up at a A.
But here's the question: you're at a C now. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want to rewatch this movie?
7.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it could go a little bit higher.
I mean, it's Tarantino. You know what I mean? It's like. It's a cultural event, but like,
Well-
I just have to talk about like what you said though about like agency and everything like that. That I think that was one interesting thing that like I didn't think about. Like Rick Dalton is not a pathetic like character at all. Like all his failure and his bullshit, he's literally living in the Hollywood Hills, like doing just fine. They
It's all
show
in his head.
Brad Pitt going back to a hovel,
Right.
and being totally like cool about
he's
like
happy.
where his
Fine.
life is, and even when he's like. Yep. All right. I'm not gonna have a job anymore. That's cool, man. I'll drive you around. Like,
good
oh, I
for you,
can't do.
man.
Yeah, like do that or whatever. Like, I was expecting him to be like, oh, like he's a psycho. Like, really? And he's gonna be like, I've done all this shit for you, and now like I'm getting cut off. But it's like that was one thing that I thought was really interesting. It's like I didn't even think about it. It's like the kind of like mentality that he had. He's like, oh, I'm a fucking failure. It's like, dude, you're doing okay, man. Like.
But I think he's also pathetic where he's in the level where like one guy comes into his life, one critic or agent or whatever, Al Pacino's character comes in and says like, yeah, you're going to be, he's like, I'm washed up, I'm awful. And like Brad Pitt's like, why are you freaking out, man?
He goes to Italy, makes a bunch of money, and comes back with a beautiful Italian wife, and he's still like, "What am I going to do? I don't know." Like,
Okay.
Don't cry in front of the Mexicans. I said this movie didn't have any quotable lines, and here I am quoting the
there
lines.
you go.
Damn it.
See,
Okay.
you gotta watch it, man. You gotta do it again.
Okay. Any final thoughts?
I'd say that this movie to me, it seems like Tarantino is becoming too Tarantino for Tarantino's own good.
That's a good way to put it to me.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But this didn't feel like a Tarantino movie to me. That's the biggest problem that I had with it. It didn't
It
feel...
felt too much like a Tarantino movie.
I didn't feel the style, you know? I didn't feel the quick wit. I didn't feel the dialogue that made me want to listen to these characters more.
And that was
I'd say it's more like Tarantino since Inglourious Bastards. Like, this is like the continuation of a train that he's been going on.
Yeah.
And it's just going a stop or two past where it should have.
Okay. All right, so that kind of wraps up our discussion about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a weaker Tarantino movie, but still a Tarantino movie. If you're a completist, you'll watch it. All right, so thanks, Steve, Juan, Joe, Aaron, Jordan, and Eve, and Shirley, and Max, and I'm not going to say your name right. What is it again? Fanin. Juan's little brother Fanin is here also. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in about a month.
Hey, DJ, thanks for having us. Margot Robbie was fucking useless. Fucking